Hello, SD WhoCon. I'm Sandro Monetti, and as you may have read in Doctor Who magazine earlier this year, our guest today occupies a unique place in Doctor Who history. Originally cast as the 8th Doctor, only to be replaced 2 weeks later by Paul McGann. What happened? We are going to find out now as we welcome the alternative Doctor, Harry Van Gorkum.
The Alternative Doctor, I love that.
You like that?
That's my new title, The Alternative Doctor. It covers so many bases in today's woke agenda.
It does. Now, Harry, take us back to 1996. You are a successful working actor. If anyone's unfamiliar with Harry's work, he's been in Friends, Seinfeld, 24, Gone in 60 Seconds, Batman and Robin. But Doctor Who is such a star-making franchise. So when you got the call to audition for the role of the Doctor, what thoughts went through your head?
I was kind of amazed. It was, you know, I grew up with Doctor Who. I grew up with hiding behind the sofa. I grew up with the Cybermen coming out of this, coming out of the ocean and scaring the hell out of me. It was my, come home, watch Doctor Who moment. So when I didn't even realize they were doing a new Doctor Who. I didn't realize that it had been bought by America. I didn't realize Fox and Universal were going to team up with the BBC to do this 2-hour feature film, apparently, to introduce the Doctor to America. So when I got the call from my agent, they said they're auditioning for Doctor Who. And I was like, oh my God. And then they said, they want to see you. And I'm like, well, they're going to want a name. They're going to want someone bigger, because I'd heard this rumor, that I did some research into it. And I heard this rumor that they've been traveling around the globe looking for the new Doctor. I mean, they'd auditioned lots of people in England, lots of people already in America.
Had you heard some of the names on the actors' grapevine who were up for it?
I mean, it was John Sessions at the time, Liam Halligan, Mark McGann. I mean, anyone who was
Mark McGann, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Mark McGann, his brother. Yeah. And it was the list was incredible people. I can't think now who was hot at the time. It's in the book they wrote about it. They list all the people. Mm-hmm. And I do have the book, but it's in a box in my garage, so I can't get it out now. But there's a book about all the different people they'd seen, and actually they have shots of the different casting tapes and all the different people who did it. So it had been round the block a few times. So I thought they must be getting desperate. If I get the call, they must be getting desperate, because you were very flattering by saying I was a sort of successful actor. I was a working actor. I mean, I wasn't known anywhere. I was doing a TV show called First Time Out, which was actually my first television show in America, which is a situation comedy. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was doing at the time when I got the call.
So you had this history with the show. You were aware there were all these big names up for it.
Right.
But, in every actor's life, there comes one life-changing opportunity. So you must have thought about how you were going to approach this part to elevate yourself above bigger names, and it obviously worked, with the impression you made on the producers. So going in, what sort of Doctor did you prepare for that audition?
I mean, to be honest, my first audition was just with, I think, the casting director on tape. It was a really lovely scene they'd written. It was a scene of me confronting the Master. Mm-hmm. And accusing him of so many things that he'd done wrong in the world and how he had destroyed the world. But at the same time, I'd lost my jelly beans. So there's this great dichotomy in Doctor Who, which I sort of latched onto straight away. There's this kind of schizophrenic personality that he can be fighting with someone 1 second and the next moment be a lost kid saying, "You can't destroy the world. Have you seen my jelly beans? Because I put them down over here and now they've gone. You've got to stop what you're doing." So it's this lovely juxtaposition and I fell in love with that. And that was in the script. So I didn't plan any of that. It was just there in the dialogue and in the emotion of what he was going through. And he was talking about his scarf, and there was some beautiful switches. There was a constant switch back, switch forward, switch left, switch right. So I did it for the casting director, and I think she obviously liked it. And then they said it was sent to Philip Siegel and Jeffrey Sachs, who were sort of doing the casting in America.
How did you dress for the audition? Because the look of the role is such an important part as well.
Yeah, luckily I'd done a pretty bad B movie with Rob Lowe called Escape Under Pressure, where I played the bad guy. And in that, I had this incredible long Calvin Klein coat, which was a sort of almost like a robe. It went almost all the way down to my ankles, but it was beautifully cut and tailored into the, it was just a really, I mean, I've still got it. I don't know how much it's worth. They gave it to me, kind of gave it to me after the filming. And I wore that with a waistcoat, and I had a red waistcoat, which I wore, which was my father's with brass buttons on it. And I wore I didn't have a scarf, and I just had a white shirt, I think, but it was just, it had this sort of classical, ageless quality to it. And also with a coat, I could really get some movement going in it and get some really nice shapes and stuff. So then I was called back to meet Philip Siegel and Jeffrey Sachs and do it with them. So I did it with them, and they were really helpful because they started giving me notes. They were like saying, in this line, try and emphasize, it didn't give me a line reading, but they gave me sort of notes about where he was at this point and where the gravitas was in those lines and why. They gave me the history of where the lines were coming from. So I did it for them. And then I didn't hear anything for about a week. And I was shooting first time out over at Warner Brothers. So I had a trailer, so I was there. And then I got a call in my trailer saying, they want you to come back in. They want you to go to network for it. But before you go to network, they want to bring you in for a kind of workshop session. They're doing workshop sessions with the actors, they said.
You must have been getting giddy at this point and thinking, what started as a long shot, I'm actually getting closer.
I mean, it was very surreal. It was very early on in my career. I mean, I'd only been in America for a year and a half. So I was kind of still doubting it because I thought they're not going to use me because I haven't got enough established work behind me in America yet. But anyway, they were very keen. I went to see them. I expected to see 5 or 6 other actors there at the workshop waiting outside. And I was the only one there. But I
all dressed in long Calvin Klein coats.
All dressed in long Calvin Klein coats and red waistcoats. But I was the only one there. And I thought maybe I'd missed the others. They'd done them before. So what was meant to be an hour workshop session turned into about 2.5 hours of absolute glorious playtime with them. I mean, I could sense from them that they were really, really excited with what I was doing. And they used the word malleable. They said, you're so malleable. We throw something at you and you make it your own, and you can change yourself into that. And I think that's the secret of what they were looking for. They wanted an actor who could just switch, who could just be one thing 1 second, something else another second, and had the intelligence, the humor, the quirkiness, which is really important for Sean Connery, who James Bond, for Doctor Who. Sorry, I've been watching Daniel Craig talking on the TV. So it's quirkiness is really, really important, and that's what we try to find, because he can be funny, but he's got to be quirky. He's got to be slightly odd funny. So we did a 2-hour session, 2.5-hour workshop, and then there's this horrible process in America, which still exists. You basically, before you go to network, you're given a contract, which is a 7-year contract. So every actor in America, I don't know if people know this, but every actor in America, everyone from Friends to Seinfeld to everything, before they go and test in front of the network, they have to sign their life away for 7 years.
Did it say how much you were going to be paid?
Yeah, it tells you exactly what you're paid.
And was it bigger than the usual BBC money with the American influence?
That's what makes it so horrible, because you've got this figure in front of you. So I can tell you, for the 2-hour movie, I think it was $75,000. And then for the actual per episode rate was $26,000 per episode.
For 7 years, that mounts up.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Even though you sign that contract for 7 years, what happens basically if a show is a hit after 2 years, your agent kind of sidles back to the producers and says, listen, you've got a hit on your hands. We're not, because every year you get a 10% bump on that salary. But people like Friends went back after 3 years. Everyone goes back after 3 years and says, listen, you've got a hit on your hands. You're making money. Let's up it to 44,000 or 70,000, or in the Friends case,
$1 million per episode. Yes.
Yeah. But that was but anyway, so I went to network, and again, usually when you go to network, they put you up against, usually 3 of you go to network. because they then have the choice of, the network can decide who their favorite is and they can bounce people off each other. But again, when I went to the network audition, I wasn't nervous, which is, I usually get quite nervous in network because usually it's usually in the head of the network's office, which is not very big anyway. And they usually cram 15 or 20 people into the office. And then you're brought into the office to basically audition in this tiny space where your voice is lost in the crowd. That's how they do the network test. It's very strange. But Fox, God bless them, had a proper network test stage they had. So it was a small auditorium with a small stage. So all the producers, there's so many people involved in this. You've got the Universal executives, you've got the Fox network people, you've got the casting people, you've got 20, 30 people in the room.
Everyone except the BBC, and more of which later.
Yes, no BBC were there.
Yeah.
Because the BBC had a very small stake in it. I think they had like 23% stake in the actual making of it.
But as we'll later learn, they did have final say over casting. So you've gone back several times. You've shown yourself to be malleable. You've shown yourself to be quirky. You got the red waistcoat. You've given us a preview of what your doctor would have been like. Clearly, it was a hit with the producers. After going through this endless sort of beauty parade, you finally get the call that you're the one. Tell us about that moment.
Well, the audition went really well. The audition went, because I'm trained in theatre acting, being on a small stage, performing this incredible character. It's almost like, it's going to sound too grand if I say it. It's like a Hamlet soliloquy, because it's him talking to all these different characters. It's like Hamlet talking to his ghost of his father. So all that stuff that I had in my engine room as an actor was allowed to come out. And I just loved doing the audition. Went back to my trailer and thought, well, they'll see other people now, and that's it. And then about an hour later, the phone goes, and it's my agent, and he says, "Are you sitting down?" I go, "No." He said, "You better sit down." I said, "Okay, I'll sit down." He says, "You've got Doctor Who." And I get emotional about it now. I'm glad I was sitting down, because my legs went from under me. And I kind of collapsed a bit, because you don't get that kind of phone call. It's the biggest part in the world. There's only one other part, which is James Bond, funny enough, is that your name becomes kind of public knowledge once you're announced as Doctor Who. Not so much then, because it was a very European thing, but in England especially. Let's just talk about England. Mm-hmm. If the new Doctor Who is cast, then everyone in England suddenly knows who Doctor Who is and who this actor is. So I was very emotional. I couldn't believe it. I still couldn't believe it. I was totally in shock, because it had been a very easy process. It had been a casting call with the casting director. It had been another callback. It had been a workshop and a network. Usually when you go up for these kind of parts on American television, it's about 10 to 15 auditions you have to do to get to network. It had been a very quick and very slick process. So obviously the producers and Philip Siegel and Jeffrey Sachs found that they decided before I walked in the room that this is the guy after their search. Mm-hmm. So I was totally elated, couldn't believe it. Called my mum and dad, called my brother and sister. They couldn't believe it. And then the nightmare started.
And how exactly did the nightmare unfold?
The nightmare, it didn't really start as a nightmare. It just started off as a little hiccup. They called me back my agent then called me back about 2 hours.
So did World War II, but still, yes. some historians have said, yes.
Somebody does something wrong. It's like so it was a moment. They called me back and said, "Listen, no problem. They just want you to go back in," because it's very strange. In those days, they didn't tape the network because it was in the auditorium. Yeah. They want you to go back and put yourself on tape so they can send it to the BBC, because the BBC have 23%.
Hang on, let me get this right, Harry. So you've won the role, and the BBC are saying, "Oh, can you just audition again so we can check we like you?"
I think it wasn't a case of clearing it with the BBC. I think they just wanted to send the tape over until we found the guy. So I went back in. We did it on tape. It was just me and Jeffrey and Philip Siegel, and we sort of worked it a bit, and we did it at different angles, and they made a really nice little production of it. We sort of cut it in different angles, made a little film actually, like a little screen test. And they were, when I saw them, they were like, Harry, Harry, Harry. They were like big hugs. They're like, you knocked it out of the park. There is no, this is it. We've got our James. We've got it. We've got our Doctor Who. We are so happy. It's taken so long. They were totally elated.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all went quiet for a while. And then I got a call back from, I think my agent called Philip Segal to see what was going on. And they said, well, we've sent the tape over to the head of the BBC, Alan Yentob at the time, and he hasn't had a chance to look at it yet. And I'm like, okay. And then it went on for about another week. And now they found out then Alan Yentob wasn't looking at the tape for some reason. So they called up the BBC. They called up Alan Yentob and they said, you know, we've found our Doctor Who, we've sent you the tape. And Alan Yentob said, oh, great, who is it? And they said, Harry Van Gorkum. And he said, Harry who? I've never heard of him. Now, this is kind of bizarre because one of the reasons I went to America in the first place was I've been working in England for about 10 years as an actor, doing a lot of theatre, few commercials, and a lot of television, but no BBC stuff, because in that time, and still now to a certain extent, the BBC has its list of actors they want to use. And if you watch television on the BBC, you'll see the same faces recurring over and over again because they have
You'd
this.
You'd think there was only 6 actors in England. Yes.
Well, exactly, you would. I mean, because they think, oh, the public like this person, let's put him in this, or they like her, let's put her in this. So you spend half your time watching English television then thinking, now, where do I know her from? Where did I see her in last? So I called the BBC the British Boys Club, because if you're not on the list, you're not in. So I went to America to say, right, I'll go and do it in America. And then one day I'll come back and I'll have a big enough name so I can work on the BBC. So the fact that Alan Yentob said Harry who, never heard of him, didn't really surprise me. In the end, Geoffrey Sachs had to fly to England and basically sit down with him and put the tape in the machine and say, watch him, and you'll understand why he is the one. So he was forced, he wouldn't look at it. He said, no, can't be any good, never heard of it. So he watched it. And I think begrudgingly, he kind of agreed that, yes, I could possibly pay Doctor Who. It could work. But he said, we need a name. We need a name in it somewhere to bring it back to England. If you're going to do a film, we want to bring it back to England ourselves later on. There's got to be a name in there somewhere because it's an American production. They expect the name.
Can I just ask and interrupt you here? Did they already have Eric Roberts cast as the Master? No. An American name? Okay.
That's when the casting for the Master started. So they said, right, we'll find a name for the Master. If we find a name for the Master, will you then agree to sign off on Harry Van Gorkum? He said, if you find a big enough name, then I accept we can use an unknown for the Doctor Who. So then the search started for the Master. And as you're right, they actually auditioned a lot of people, but Eric Roberts, who was a big name at the time, agreed to do it. So they were like, we're off. Now, I was back in England by this time. It was Christmas, and they were building all the sets, preparing all the pre-planning. They'd sent me photographs of the sets and the enormous, I can't remember what it was in the film now. They'd built this enormous control room. It wasn't the TARDIS, it was something else. They showed me photographs of the TARDIS, very exciting. And I was in England, and I was meant to fly to Vancouver like at the early, basically 2nd or 3rd of January. And it went a bit quiet again. And I was getting calls from Philip Segal saying, listen, they're just, we're just, polishing, finishing things off, getting things tied up, getting things planned, working out dates, etc. And then on, I think it was December the 28th. Yeah, December the 28th, I got a phone call sitting in my flat in London, and it was Philip Segal. And he said, this is the worst phone call I've ever made. He said, you'll get this phone call probably 2 or 3 times in your career because you are really, really good, but there's always going to be someone who is more liked in other ways than you, but may not have as much talent. And I'm not being big-headed about that. That's what he said. But he said, that's the way it works, unfortunately. And the BBC have now turned back to us and said that if you don't use Paul McGann, they will pull the plug on the production.
Wow.
So that was it. It was very hard. My father got very upset. He was going to write a letter to the Times. But it was a case, and Philip Segal said, this is going to happen. I mean, we can't do anything about it. We didn't, Paul McGann was on their list, top of their list. They always wanted Paul McGann, and we prefer you because of, they said Paul McGann is porcelain, you're clay. That's how they termed it. They said you're clay, we can play with you, you can adapt. Paul McGann is very classic and a very good actor, but he's not quite what we're looking for. That's what they said. No bitterness to Paul McGann at all. Paul McGann is a great actor, he's a hero actor of mine. I adore him in With Ned and I mean, one of the best films ever made. I have no bitterness towards anyone in this situation. I want to stress that now. It's just the way the business goes sometimes. And in this case, it went against me.
It sounds like you've come to terms with it over time. Thank you for being so honest and open about the disappointment. But that setback would have broken so many other people. We hear a lot at the moment about sort of mental health and dealing with disappointments. How were you able to pick yourself up from that and get back on another set and just get back to acting and find the love of acting again after you've been so close to your dream role?
I mean, it wasn't easy. I mean, the good thing, that the helpful thing was I was doing this first time out TV show in America, which I think I had like 3 more episodes of, so I could go back, because that was gonna work with the schedule. They worked it out. I could do 3 because there was only 3 days filming on that a week, so I could go back and get on a set. But quite honestly, as an actor, if you can't take rejection, you can't be in the business. And yes, this was a huge rejection and it was a massive loss, but you've got to just move on. I mean, if you get affected by that, one thing I've always said to other actors who I see sometimes getting a bit upset with other actors working or other actors doing better than them, I said, you can be a little bit jealous of them, but never be bitter about it. Never be. If you get bitter, then get out of the business, go and do something else, because it's for the love of the acting that we do it. And if another actor gets a part, then good for them. They've got a part and they can make their own of it.
Harry, as we speak today, the role of the Doctor has become available again. Jodie Whittaker has announced that she is stepping down. Russell T Davies is stepping back as showrunner. It's never too late, Harry. Do you have a message for Russell if he's watching this?
Russell, I would love you to watch my original audition tape if it's still around. And if you're impressed by that, I'll pop on in and do a more, up-to-date version. I mean, I have a feeling I know where the role is going. And the good thing is the role is actually going older. So I may be in the brackets for that. I mean, God, I'd love to do it. Of course I would. I mean, Jesus, who wouldn't? I mean, I think I'd be better at it now, actually.
You said you had an instinct where the role is going. Can you give us any inside knowledge?
I think it's Michael Sheen.
Well, that would be a great choice. Yeah.
That's my, I mean, there's so much going for him. I mean, he's got the relationship with David Tennant. He's got the look. He's got the wonderful voice. He's very theatrical. He's very adaptable, very malleable, he can do comedy in a second and very heavy drama in the next second. He's got all the ingredients you need to put in a bowl and come out with a perfect Doctor Who. I think that if they don't go with him, they'll go much younger. But I'm leaning towards Michael Sheen. I mean, the thing for me was, if I can just finish the story, kind of how it came around full circle. When they finished, I got a call months later, well, almost 6 months, almost a year later, actually, saying they'd like to invite me to the premiere of the screening of the new Doctor Who movie.
Did you immediately think no way, or
well, my language was a bit like no way am I going to go to that premiere?
Yes.
Thank
goodness for the mute button. Yes.
Yeah, and see someone else do it. But then my agent said, my manager at the time said, listen, they've invited you out of courtesy. They want you to be there. They want you to be part of it. So I basically sucked it up and I waited till right at the end, everyone else had gone in. And there was a TARDIS sitting outside on this little bit of grass. And I had to go and walk up and touch the TARDIS quietly before I went in. The door didn't open, unfortunately. Didn't have the key. And so I walked in late And as I walked in, the lights were going down, and these two figures came up in the shadows and ran towards me. I thought they were security and going to kick me out. But actually, it turned out to be Philip Siegel and Jeffrey Sachs. And they ran over and gave me a huge hug. And they said, it should have been you. It still should have been you. I said, well, it's a bit bloody late now, isn't it? Yeah. So I sat there and watched it. And I don't know if everyone, you've probably all seen it. I don't know what your views on it are. To me, it was far too, and I don't know if it was, I think it was Fox getting involved, Fox TV getting involved, probably too many Fox execs making him into an action hero, as to opposed to this, as we know, this wonderful, quintessentially quirky, crazy, schizophrenic, multi-personality character that he is. You know, he's riding around on motorbikes and screaming at people and losing control and getting angry. It was too much of Bruce Willis meets Doctor Who for me. So I don't know what, have you seen it, Sandro?
I have. I've seen it about 10 times, and since I've gotten to know you, I keep asking myself, oh, what would Harry have done differently in that scene? And you must watch it with that in mind yourself, I imagine. Yes.
Well, you even picture yourself saying that line, and you're saying, you know, the emphasis is on there, not on there. And after it, I was outside, and Paul McGann was there, signing autographs and talking to fans and stuff. So I walked over. You
punched him in the face?
So I walked over and kicked him in the balls, and walked away. But there's no bitterness between it at all. No, so I walked over to him, and I introduced myself. I said, Paul, I'm Harry Van Gorkum. Bit of a close thing a few months ago, bit of a close thing, wasn't it? He said, sorry. And I said, we were both up in the same part. And he said, oh, no, part was mine all along. He said, I heard about you, but it was always mine. So I could have walked away, and I probably should have walked away. But I said to him, I said it was a great performance, Paul. It was lovely. You really did a great job with it. And then I got bitchy and I said, it's just a shame you couldn't have made it a bit more quirky. and he stopped signing autographs, and he looked at me and said, but I did. I made it funny. And I said, yeah, see, that's the thing. There's funny and there's quirky. And I walked away.
Oh, drop the mic moment, Harry Van Gorkum.
Oh,
wow.
I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it. But listen, he knew, every actor knows there's someone else in the running. He knew there was someone else in the running. Then he knew he wasn't walking onto it, unless he was totally blinkered. Maybe he was. Maybe, to give him his due, he had no idea that there was someone else involved. But as I said, and I'm sounding bitter now, I'm not. It didn't go anywhere. The only thing I am upset about is that if I had done it, and this is going to sound really arrogant now, so it's going to come out the wrong way, but if I had done it, would it have got picked up as a TV series? I don't know. And that's the only thing that really upsets me, because America never got their chance to meet this incredible character. They never got the chance to share what we have in England, which is this icon of English television.
But now at SD WhoCon, you've had the chance to meet this incredible actor, the alternate Doctor, we might say. Now, we only have a couple of minutes left, but if you want to know what happened next. Now, Harry obviously didn't meet Sylvester McCoy in the TV movie, but he did when we got together for my podcast, Who's the Best, which you can listen to at who'sthebest.fm or Who's the Best wherever you get your podcasts. Also, we filmed a version, the meeting of the seventh and what would have been the eighth Doctor. You can watch that at bigstreamentertainment.com. Just go to bigstreamentertainment.com, scroll down to special, and you will see our Doctor Who special with Harry. And also, if you want to see what happened when Harry met the ninth Doctor, you can watch God in 60 Seconds and see his performance alongside Christopher Eccleston. So it's amazing how Doctor Who keeps coming back into the world. All comes around. Harry, in the 30 seconds we have left, One of the things I admire about you so much is you've been able to overcome this disappointment, show your talent in a whole range of other sort of different roles. What advice do you have for anyone who maybe, you know, doesn't get that thing they most wanted, but is able to push on forward and just find other brilliant things in life?
There's always something else. There's always something else. I mean, there was a lovely quote the other day, which some woman said, I don't know where it was. She said, "You can't wait for the world to be great to be happy." And it's just, you've just got to keep on going. I mean, you've got to just as an actor especially, but anyone in life, you're going to get knocked down. You've got to pick yourself back up. That makes you stronger. By having these experiences, with me, when I go up for the bigger parts, after that, when I went up for bigger parts, I always had in the back of my head, I was Doctor Who. They picked me over hundreds of other actors to be Doctor Who. And that, having that in the back of my head, got me more parts probably than I ever would have got on bigger productions, on bigger movies, and and I've been working ever since, you know, for 30 years happily as a working actor. So I see it as it helped me. It didn't hinder me, it helped me.
I love a happy ending. We're all stories. Make yours a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.